What happens when a billionaire realizes money can't buy the one thing his son truly needs? Gregory Beckford didn't want to be seen that night. Not by cameras, not by clients, not even by the valet whose smile stretched too wide for someone, earning $12 an hour. He waved the kid off with a quiet nod and stepped out of his sleek black Audi. His son, Evan, was already waiting on the curb, eyes fixed on the pavement like it might reveal answers. Gregory started to speak, then hesitated. What was he supposed to say? "Happy birthday, buddy. Ready for fried catfish and cornbread?" Evan didn't respond. He hadn't said much the entire day. Gregory shoved his phone into his pocket and followed his son toward the entrance of Miss Claudine's table, a small brick-and-mortar restaurant tucked off Highway 280 in Opelika, Alabama. He'd discovered it on a parenting blog while half paying attention in a meeting. The place promised down-home charm, family ownership, and no reservations. Exactly the kind of humble, grounded atmosphere Gregory hoped would feel safe. Not extravagant, not corporate, unlike everything else in his world. Inside the restaurant exuded warmth without the noise. Tables wore checkered cloths, mismatched chairs creaked against wooden floors, and the air was thick with the scent of butter, sweet tea, and a faint trace of something burnt. Maybe peach cobbler. A small jazz trio played softly in the back, saxophone, upright bass, gentle rhythm. Nothing fancy. Nothing loud. Gregory pulled out a chair for Evan. The boy paused, then carefully lowered himself into the seat. His every movement seemed calculated, cautious, like even shifting his weight took effort. Gregory unfolded his napkin, glanced at the menu, and instinctively checked his phone. 3 new emails, 1 marked urgent. He sighed and looked up. Evan hadn't touched the menu. "You want to try the mac and cheese?" Gregory asked, trying to sound upbeat. "Says here it's award-winning." Evan shrugged, gaze still down. "Or maybe the fried chicken. They say it's better than Popeyes." "I know you love Popeyes." Another shrug. Silent. Gregory scanned the room. No one was staring, no one whispering, no flashes, no clients, no board members, just regular people sharing meals and stories. He exhaled, letting his shoulders relax. Maybe this had been the right call after all. Just then, a soft voice broke through the space, warm and worn like an old hoodie. "Hey there. Welcome to Miss Claudine's. I'm Monica. I'll be taking care of y'all tonight." She looked to be in her late 20s, hair pulled back into a low puff, a tired but sincere smile on her face. Her apron had faint sauce stains, but her presence was calm, unhurried, like someone who meant every word. Gregory looked up from his phone and quickly closed it. "Evening," he said, trying to be polite. "We're still figuring things out." Monica's smile shifted to Evan. "And what about you, birthday boy?" Evan's head snapped up slightly, startled. His expression stayed flat, but his eyes locked on hers for a second. Gregory furrowed his brow. "I didn't mention it was his birthday." Monica smiled gently. "You didn't have to. He's got that look, like he's trying to disappear. But today matters too much for that." Gregory opened his mouth, searching for a reply, but nothing came out. But Monica wasn't done seeing them. Seeing him, she didn't write anything down, just nodded, hands behind her back, eyes flicking between father and son like she was trying to measure the space between them. "Take your time," she said. "No rush tonight." And then she disappeared, gliding between tables like she belonged to them and they to her. Gregory watched her for a moment, how she refilled a water glass without being asked, crouched to talk softly to a toddler, gave an elderly man a brief shoulder squeeze and whispered something that made him chuckle. She moved like a thread woven into the fabric of the place. Evan still hadn't opened his menu. "You okay?" Gregory asked, this time a little softer. No answer. "We don't have to stay long," Gregory added gently. "We can eat quick, then maybe pick up that new Lego set on the way home." Evan blinked slowly, then reached out, almost hesitantly, and nudged the menu forward just a little. "I don't want Legos," Evan mumbled under his breath. Gregory leaned back, a little stunned. That was new. Evan had always loved Legos. At least he used to. Gregory couldn't remember the last time they'd built something together. He opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, Monica returned carrying 2 glasses. Sweet tea, no lemon, no ice. "Just how the note on the blog described," she said, sliding one in front of Evan. Gregory raised an eyebrow. "Do you know us?" Monica offered a small smile. "Nope, just lucky with guesses." Then she turned her attention to Evan. "You like music, baby?" Evan gave the smallest shrug. "Barely anything." Monica crouched down beside him so they were eye level. She didn't look over him, not around him, just at him. "That sax player over there?" She nodded toward the trio. "He used to tour with B.B. King, real smooth hands. You can hear it in how he hits those high notes, pain in his breath, honey in his fingers." Evan tilted his head slightly toward the music. "You know what I like?" Monica continued. "When a sound hits your chest before your brain even knows it's a song, like it knew you first." Gregory stared. It wasn't just what she said, but how. Like music wasn't background noise, but a partner. You could dance with it, argue with it, even forgive it. Monica stood. "Want me to give y'all a few more minutes?" "Yeah," Gregory replied softly. "Thanks." She nodded and walked off. Gregory turned to Evan, who was now really watching the jazz trio. His fingers hovered near the glass, gently tapping, slow but deliberate. Gregory followed his gaze. The trio was locked into something smooth and searching. The sax led, the keys followed, and the bass held them steady like a heartbeat. Maybe Evan wasn't tapping randomly. Maybe he was hearing something Gregory never had. Then the moment shifted. Subtle, not in the music, but in the room. Monica, now back behind the counter, was refilling ketchup bottles and checking plates. Her co-workers hustled around her, chatter, clinking dishes, orders barked over the hiss of the grill, but she kept a quiet eye on table 7. The birthday boy wasn't eating, wasn't talking, just tapping his fingers, like they were trying to say something. She'd seen that before. Not the condition, but the need. Not for food, for connection, for recognition. A beat. Monica tapped her fingers against her hip, matching Evan's rhythm. She didn't know if he'd notice, didn't care if he did. There was something familiar about him, not his face or his silence, but the space between. When she returned, she didn't bring food, just a cloth to wipe a small water spill Evan hadn't realized he'd made. "Hey, sugar," she said gently, kneeling beside him again. "You ever danced before?" Evan looked at her like she'd asked him if he could fly. "I can't dance," he said plainly. Monica shook her head. "Sure you can. You just haven't met the right music yet." Gregory glanced up from his phone, surprised at how quickly Evan had responded. "I have cerebral palsy," Evan said, like he was quoting a brochure. "I don't move right." Monica leaned in, her eyes warm. "Sweetheart, there's no wrong way to move when you're being honest with how it feels. That's all dancing is, telling the truth with your body." Evan's lips parted, almost a smile. Gregory felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to thank her. He wanted to stop her. He wasn't sure which. He'd gotten used to professionals walking on eggshells around Evan, but Monica wasn't tiptoeing. She was walking straight through the mess, barefoot. She tapped the table, twice. Slow, intentional. "Can you tap that back?" she asked. Evan hesitated. His hand hovered above the table. Then, "Tap, tap," Monica grinned. "Look at that. You've already got rhythm in those fingers." Gregory leaned forward. He used to love music, a lot, when he was little. Evan didn't answer, but his eyes never left Monica. She tapped a new rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Evan watched, then mimicked. Slower, off by half a beat. She didn't correct him. "That's it, baby. You're leading. I'm following. Gregory swallowed. Something sacred was unfolding, something that didn't need permission or applause. A tired waitress and a tired boy were building something invisible, and suddenly, Gregory didn't feel like the richest person at the table anymore. Then the music shifted. The trio eased into a softer tune, smooth, lullaby-like, wrapped in velvet. The saxophone whispered through the air, not demanding attention, just being. Monica set down her tray. She turned to Evan and nodded toward the music. "You hear that?" Evan blinked. "What?" "That song's asking you a question," she said with a smile. He squinted. "What question?" She leaned in. "It's asking if you'll answer back." Gregory tensed. "He doesn't dance." Monica turned calmly. "I didn't ask him to dance. I asked if he'd answer." She turned, back to Evan. "Can I show you something? Just a second. You don't have to move at all." Evan gave a tiny nod. Right there between the tables and kitchen door, Monica began to move. Nothing big, nothing flashy. Just her arms, slow and flowing like fabric in the breeze. One foot glided forward and back. Her shoulders rolled like ocean swells. It wasn't performance. It was personal. She raised one hand, palm open, and waited. Evan watched. His hand twitched. Gregory leaned in. "You okay?" Evan nodded again, slower. Then he lifted his hand, fingers shaky, curled slightly, raised it halfway. Monica mirrored. Him. They stood like that, her upright, him seated, 4 feet and a lifetime apart, yet completely in rhythm. Then Evan tapped twice on the table. "Just like earlier," Monica responded. Tap, tap. Then she tapped once and paused. Evan thought for a second. Then, tap. She swayed gently, letting that single beat guide her next move, like it was the only one that mattered. Gregory felt the world slow, time stretch. Around them, people began to notice. But inside that moment, only one thing existed. A boy who didn't dance, and a woman who never asked him to. Just listened. This time she didn't resist. Then Gregory turned to Evan, crouched down and truly looked into his son's eyes. Really saw him. "Hey," he said gently, "how would you feel if we came back next week?" Evan tilted his head. "Why?" "Because," Gregory replied, "maybe we could build something together. Something real. Something that matters." Evan gave the slightest, shyest nod. They stepped out into the parking lot. Quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet as before. Inside, Monica stood at the door, watching them through the glass. She looked down at the business card Gregory had given her. On the back, he'd written in block letters, "You saw him." "I saw you." But neither of them could have imagined what would come next. Not the phone call, not the project, not the lives that would be transformed because of one unexpected birthday dinner. 6 months later, the building stood just outside. Auburn, Alabama. No grand opening, no press, just an open door with a wooden sign above it. The movement room inside, the space was bare. No mirrors yet. Scuffed floors from all the deliveries. But in the center of the room, 20 kids stood in a circle, including Evan. He wore soft, flexible shoes and a loose t-shirt with bold words. "Let me lead." Monica stood at the front, barefoot, hair tied back, her voice confident and calm. "Today you move however your body wants to move. No counts, no right or wrong, just your way." Some kids giggled, others swayed gently. Evan raised his hand slowly. "Can I start?" Monica smiled. "You already did." He stepped forward, not graceful, not polished, but filled with something. More important, ownership. Gregory stood at the back, arms crossed, watching in silence. He hadn't brought investors, he wasn't here for applause. Because what he saw couldn't be measured in profits or tax breaks. What he saw was proof. Proof That real wealth lies not in ideas but in presence, in showing up, in asking questions instead of offering answers, in saying, "I see you." Later that evening, after the kids had gone and the room was quiet, Gregory stood outside with Monica. "You think it's really working?" he asked. Without hesitation, she replied, "It's not about the moves. It's about the permission." Gregory nodded, then pulled a photo from his jacket. A snapshot from Evan's last therapy session. Evan was dancing, truly dancing, not copying, not following, leading, hands extended, eyes focused, fearless. Monica stared at the photo. "I want to hang this in the studio," Gregory said. She smiled. "Only if we get one of you next to him," he laughed. "I can't dance." That's what Evan said too. They stood there in the dark, lit only by the soft glow from inside the studio. And for once, neither felt the need to say anything more. The moment spoke for itself. Sometimes the richest experiences come from the most unexpected people. And sometimes the biggest changes begin with the smallest choice. To look up, to listen, and to move in someone else's rhythm. So if you're watching this, ask yourself, who have you made room for lately? And when was the last time you let someone else lead? If this story meant something to you, share it. Not because it's feel good, but because it's real. And someone out there still needs to know they matter. No one interrupted, they just watched. A few leaned in. Even the saxophone player noticed and began bending his notes to match the rhythm Monica and Evan were creating. It wasn't dancing in the usual sense. It was communication. And now, Gregory was the outsider. The man with the money and meetings sat watching a woman in sneakers and a boy who couldn't walk in a straight line create a language with no words. Suddenly, it hit him. How many birthdays he'd missed. How many moments he'd paid for but never truly experienced. Evan lowered his hand slowly, eyes still fixed on Monica. "I did it," he whispered. Monica's face lit up. "You sure did, baby. You led, I just followed." But before Gregory could respond, something happened. Behind Monica, a crash rang out from the kitchen, sharp and sudden. A plate, or maybe two, had shattered. The spell was broken. Monica flinched, her head turning instinctively. Voices barked from the kitchen. Nothing dramatic, just real life. Crashing back in. Evan jolted, retreating into himself. His hand disappeared into his lap, eyes scanning the room. His shoulders tensed, like he was bracing for someone to yell. Just like that, he looked small again. As if the dance never happened. Gregory leaned across the table, speaking softly. Hey, it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You're fine." Evan didn't answer. Monica quickly turned back, kneeling beside him again. "Nothing to worry about, sweetheart. Just a clumsy cook. Happens all the time. You did perfect, okay?" Still unsure, Evan looked at her. She didn't touch him, just let her hand hover close. "You were brave just now," she said. Gregory cleared his throat. "He's not used to attention," Monica nodded. "Neither am I." For the first time, she looked at Gregory, not as a customer, not as Evan's father, but as a man trying to hold something fragile together. "I'm not trying to make y'all uncomfortable," she said gently. "It's just," he was watching, the music, and I remembered what that felt like. Gregory blinked. "What felt like?" "Wanting to move," she said, "but not knowing if you were allowed." Gregory sat back. No one had ever said something that captured Evan so truthfully. It wasn't a diagnosis or a strategy, just the truth. Monica stood, wiped her hands on her apron, and gave a subtle wave toward the jazz trio. The saxophonist nodded back, a quiet moment full of shared history. Gregory took a sip of his drink. "You used to dance?" Monica smiled. "Still do. Not how I used to, but yeah, I taught ballet and jazz for a while. Studied modern in Birmingham. So, why are you waiting tables? Her smile faded just a bit. Life got expensive. My mom got sick. My little boy kept outgrowing his shoes. So, here I am. Gregory looked down, unsure how to respond. But Monica wasn't bitter. She was just honest. Doesn't mean I stopped dancing, she said. Just means I had to learn how to do it while carrying plates and wiping tables. She looked at Evan. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, I get to teach someone new, even if it's just for 2 minutes between orders. Evan smiled, small but genuine. Monica's order pad buzzed in her apron. She checked it quickly. All right, y'all, I better head back before someone thinks I've been kidnapped by the birthday table. She turned, but Gregory stopped her. Wait. She looked back. Have you ever thought about teaching again? Her eyebrow rose. I think about it every day. Doesn't exactly pay the bills, though. Gregory nodded slowly. Maybe it could, if the right program existed. Something shifted in his voice. Monica noticed, and she wasn't the only one. She looked at him, confused but curious. What do you mean? Gregory rubbed the back of his neck, caught off guard by his own words. Not yet. Not like this, I mean. What if there was a space where someone like you could teach, and someone like him could learn without it being a charity or a checkbox? Monica folded her arms. You talking about a community center? No, Gregory said. I'm talking about a studio, a real one. Classes, workshops, paid staff, scholarships. Not just for kids, with disabilities, for anyone who's been told they're not the right fit. She stared at him, trying to figure out if this was a joke or a guilt trip. You some kind of non-profit guy? Gregory laughed lightly. Not even close. I design tech for hedge funds and defense contractors. Her expression didn't change. He sighed. I'm not the good guy in this story, Monica. I've spent more time on jets than with my son. I missed his first steps because I was speaking at a conference in Toronto, and I still don't know what he dreams about. She stayed quiet. But I saw what you did, Gregory continued. The way you looked at him, not through him, not around him. You gave him room to lead. He leaned forward. That kind of moment? I spend $500,000 a year trying to recreate it, with therapy, software, consultants, and none of it works like what you did in 5 minutes, with your eyes and a song. Monica's jaw tightened, not in anger, but from the weight of his words. I have the money, he said. What I don't have is the vision, but you do. She shook her head. You don't even know me. True, Gregory admitted, but I know Evan, and tonight I saw him feel seen for the first time in years. They both turned to Evan, who was quietly tapping his plate to the rhythm of the upright bass. Not to be noticed, just because it felt good. Monica's voice was quiet. What you're talking about? It's big, bigger than me. Then we build it with you, Gregory said. For the first time, Monica looked unsure. I'm a waitress, a dancer on break, a mom with rent due Tuesday. And I'm a man who built missile tracking AI before I figured out how to talk to my own kid, Gregory replied. We both have flaws. She let out a soft laugh. You're serious? He pulled a business card from his wallet and slid it across the table. Dead serious. You don't have to decide tonight, just think about it. We'll talk. She stared at the card like it might bite. She didn't pick it up, but she didn't walk away either, because in her heart, she knew this wasn't a tip, it was a door. The rest of the evening passed in gentle waves. Evan ordered mac and cheese and fried okra. Monica winked as she scribbled it down. Gregory ordered the same. It wasn't about the food. It was about being present. Monica kept circling back, not just to serve, but to make sure Evan stayed grounded. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't fade into the background. He stayed. After they finished eating, Monica returned one last time with a surprise. A small scoop of vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles and a crooked candle. In the center, she set it in front of Evan. "No charge," she said before Gregory could reach for his wallet. "Just don't tell my manager, he thinks I'm a softie." Evan stared at the candle. "Want to make a wish?" she asked. "I don't think mine come true," he said. Monica leaned in. "That's because you've been wishing quiet. Say it out loud next time. Make the world listen." Gregory swallowed the lump in his throat. Evan closed his eyes, took a breath, and blew out the candle. Gregory didn't ask what the wish was. Some things belong only to Evan. As they got up to leave, Gregory handed Monica a folded bill, at least $100. "Thank you. For everything." She shook her head, pushing it gently back. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did," he said. "You showed up. That's rare." Then he pressed the card into her hand again.